Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is: do we get married, have an open relationship, or break up? I've got an email today. This is actually from a woman who is dating a guy who apparently is a big fan of my work, big student, obviously a 3% man. But there's some problems here in the relationship because obviously they're engaged. They dated for a year and then they got engaged, and now they've been engaged and together for about 2 years total. And she wants to get married and she's totally content with him, but he keeps saying he's not ready and he doesn't think long term he's going to be able to be monogamous and exclusive with her. And he's mentioned that he had an open relationship in the past. So she's pretty happy with him, with the exception of the fact that he's not ready to get married, and that's what she wants. So she's kind of torn. Stay with him, maybe do an open relationship. She doesn't really know. So I got a quote that I wrote in this particular topic because these are good questions to contemplate on. And obviously, when it comes to marriage, me personally, I have no interest in getting married ever again for any reason. There's just no reason to do it. Just that's my particular worldview. But people who are considering it, a big thing that they really need to consider first, especially men, is what happens if it doesn't work out. Like when I do coaching with people that are getting a business together, it's always great. It's like the last thing in your wedding day you're thinking is getting a divorce, and if you're going into business with somebody, the last thing you're thinking is that what happens if it doesn't work out and we want to go our separate ways, because we're going to be millionaires, obviously, of course, since we're going into business together. That's what everybody thinks. But you always have to think, well, okay, what's my downside risk in any personal or professional type of relationship? What happens if things don't turn out the way we expected? How do we disengage in a civil way with as little mudslinging as possible? And the reality is that there's many states, many places in the West where things are just completely slanted unfairly, and if it doesn't work out, I can't say too much about this topic just because I have to worry about certain opinions I can't have, but the reality is that the guy tends to lose. The laws are slanted against him. So what do you do if maybe you're a Christian guy, or maybe you're a Muslim man, or maybe you're just traditional, maybe you're Jewish, whatever, and you want to get married? Me personally, if I ever did get married, I'd want to only be a civil type marriage without the government, because things get very complicated when you involve the government in your relationship. It makes it really hard to get out of and unpleasant. And especially if there's kids involved, you don't want to end up hating each other because that's going to affect the kids. So the quote says, the right reasons to get married are because both people are content with each other, share the same goals and values, don't want anyone else because they are experienced and ready, get along easily and effortlessly, and want to start a family together. The wrong reasons to get married are because of loneliness, locking the other person down to a commitment to feel better, settling due to impatience, peer pressure, or unexpected pregnancy. Raising amazing kids is the result of strong masculine and feminine presence in the family to help them become balanced, happy, healthy, self-reliant, and mature adults. So she says, hi, Corey, I'm emailing you because I've heard a lot about you from my fiance, and I've seen quite a few of your videos. My fiance is a big fan of yours, and he has read your book multiple times and always likes to follow your guidelines. We've been together for 2 years now, 1 year dating and 1 year engaged. There are some snags we have run into, but have been communicating and working them out together, and are working on finding a counselor for some deeper issues. The main thing we've been struggling with is that even though we are engaged, he is adamant that he does not feel like he can maintain a monogamous relationship. Okay, so I'm going to be brutally honest here. Dude, what the fuck were you thinking asking her to marry you if you're not ready to get married. What the hell, dude? Seriously, you need to man the fuck up. That's stupid. You don't get engaged when you're not 100% ready. That's just stupid. And I can't call it kettle black because if you've read 3% Man, you know I did something very similar when I was young and dumb and didn't know any better. So if this guy's an avid student of my work, why is he proposing marriage? Is it because it's what he wanted to do? Or did he feel pressured to do it? Or obligation for whatever reason? Before we met, he was exclusively in open relationships, but he never really had a desire to be in one. I love him and want to get married and have a life together. So you have to be honest and look at this from the perspective of, just like I said in the quote, sharing the same goals and values. Well, does he share the same goals? Well, his values are, and at least his past, is open relationships and not being exclusive. So that may be more in his nature, but obviously you want to get married. So from a value perspective and a goal perspective, it doesn't sound like you guys are aligned. And that is what it is. You can't make good wine from bad grapes. If you want to bake a nice cake, you got to have the correct ingredients. And if you have the incorrect ingredients, the cake is going to suck. If you have shitty grapes, the wine is going to suck. I love him and want to get married and have a life together. But what about him? Where's he at? He feels like he is unable to commit to a monogamous marriage, and now every time the subject of our wedding comes up, he keeps bringing up how he doesn't feel ready and doesn't think it will work long term. So again, this is for your fiance. It's like, dude, what the fuck were you thinking getting engaged? That's not an honorable way to treat a woman. I mean, seriously, dude. That's just pathetic. He calls himself an avid student and is like, well, he must be one of those dudes that sits in the back of the class. Because if he was an avid student, he wouldn't be doing stupid shit like this. I know it probably hurts your feelings, but this is directed at your fiance because it sounds like he fucked up here. And you're enabling his behavior by continuing to go along with it. So in other words, you're suffering because he's being a bitch of a man. Let's be real. I don't want to lose him, though. Well, it doesn't sound like he's really yours. His heart's not into it. You're in love with the idea of who you want him to be while ignoring the fact that he's an open relationship type of guy. He's a free spirit. Whatever reason being is like you're trying to marry a guy who's just based on what you've shared. He doesn't have the goals and values for it. And it's like nothing you can do about that. That is what it is. It makes me sick to my stomach to even consider leaving to find someone who will be willing to marry me, even if it sometimes feel like it'd be the healthier option for me. There you go. Deep down, you already know the solution. It would be healthy because your goals and values aren't aligned. That's not my fault or your fault. It's your fault for agreeing to. The one thing you did was you said yes, and you ignored the fact his goals and values aren't aligned with yours. So maybe he got engaged just to please you because he's a pleaser because he's being weak. Maybe he's not really strong enough to do what he really wants and go for what he really wants. I know I personally get a lot of shit for my lifestyle choices and the way I live, but I'm a free spirit, and I don't think like most people. And if I wasn't the way I was, I'd have never figured out the shit that's in this book, and you wouldn't be here writing these emails to me. It also makes me sick to think of him having sex with another woman if I were to agree to have an open relationship. You obviously don't share the same values, and that's okay. So if that turns your stomach and you want nothing to do with it, stop trying to... Don't try to keep somebody who doesn't want to keep you. I feel like no matter what I choose, I'll be losing, and I can't deal with heartbreak. Well, that's also not a reason to stay in a relationship because you're afraid of heartbreak. The bottom line is you want what you want. And so the pain of the potential heartbreak is what causes most people to settle. Oh my God, what if I don't find anybody else? What if the next person's not as good as this person? But you got to roll the dice. You got to pursue your outcomes, and you want to get married. And therefore, you got to be with a guy who shares the same goals and values, and he doesn't. I have no desire myself to be with anyone else and feel fully satisfied with him. He says he is also fully satisfied with me and loves me, but in my mind, if that were true, he wouldn't feel the need to have multiple women. There you go. So he's being incongruent because, again, he's a bitch. He's being a bitch of a man, and you can tell him, I said, I'm sure he's going to watch the video anyways. You're being a fucking bitch, dude. You need to man the fuck up. Don't take the stuff that I teach and put out there and abuse people. Don't abuse women. Don't lead them fucking on. There's no integrity in that. He would actually be happy to be married and committed to me. Really? That's not what he's saying, and that's also not what he's doing. You have to look at the man's actions in there. The dude is not congruent. He's shooting all over himself. I don't know if open relationships are really your forte, but I'm at a loss for how to make things work. Well, you have to decide. Are you okay with your guy hooking up with and sleeping with and potentially knocking up another woman while he's still sleeping with and potentially knocking you up? I can't make that decision for you. He can't either. You have to decide if you're cool with it or not. To be in an open relationship with him, or if you really want to get married, then go find somebody else to marry. That's something that you're going to have to put your big girl pants on and figure that out yourself. I really don't want to date or marry anyone else. He has been so perfect for me in every way except for this monogamy issue. Well, from what you shared, your values are monogamy, and his values are open relationship and being unattached. He's not being congruent with who he is. He's being a bitch. I was a bitch once, and I got over it. I changed. I got to a place in my life where I loved and accepted myself as I am. And I don't care what other people think. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm 51. I realize someday I'm going to die. And it's like, it doesn't matter. We're all going to die. Eventually, the sun is going to go supernova and incinerate the solar system. So it doesn't matter anyways. You're not going to save the planet long term. Any advice you have would be appreciated. Well, if it was me and you're 100% certain you want monogamy and marriage and that traditional kind of relationship, your boyfriend, your fiance is not capable of that. His actions don't reflect it. And I'm not happy with him, as I've mentioned several times in this video, with how he's showing up. He's got to be congruent with who he is, and he's not doing that. So, but again, this is your choice. You have to figure it out. Are you cool with an open relationship? Are you cool with him sleeping with and potentially knocking up other women? And also potentially, quite frankly, if he's going to sleep around, getting a disease and giving it to you. That's reality. The more partners you have, the more you raw dog it, the higher the likelihood is that you're going to get a gift that keeps on giving. Every single guy I know that has a high body count likes to raw dog it, and eventually they always get something eventually, and usually they get several things. So there's always downside risk in everything. You got to decide what you're willing to tolerate and not. So if you'd like to get my help personally, go to understandrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.